bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! We are Mac and Mac, John McMullen and Jody McDonald, your Birds 365 hosts here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Appreciate you streaming in here on a Super Thursday. That'd be Super Bowl week. Show number 698.
I thought we were over 700.
No,
I'm off on the counts. I'm way off.
One day I transposed the number on my countdown list on a calendar I keep, so I think I had us back down in the 300s.
I was like, "There's no way that was."
It
right.
was like
I said that, yeah.
It was 638, and it was really.
Yeah.
I said 368 or something like that. And I did. Whoa! We just lost 300 shows. No, it is show number 698.
All right.
Monday we'll hit the nice round number of 700. So appreciate your being here. For those of you who've been here for all 698, God bless you. We love you. Thank you very much for that.
I haven't been here for all 698.
Neither have I. Yeah, John and I have done most of them. My guess would be about 650. You and I added a 698. You traveling.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law.
Like that, yeah.
About 650 added.
You got more than me because I got to travel more.
You got the traveling stuff. But together we've done a whole bunch. And I want to start today's show off script a little bit. It's funny. We'll pull back the curtain a little bit for you. Do the show. Yes, I wrap up 10 o'clock. We book our two guests. You're always thinking about Birds 365, or at least I am. I'll jot a note or down during the day. I got a little piece of paper I always keep handy that I'll reference when I get up the next morning. And I did 6:25 this morning, same as always. Start doing a little research, have a little coffee, have a little cereal, get ready to do the show. So I got the show laid out as I think it should go. And then something throws you off a little bit. Today it would be the stream. I'm going to read two of the first three streams comments on our stream we got today from Billiano Fever. I don't recognize Billy's name. Doesn't mean he hasn't commented before, but he would be relatively new. There's some very recognizable names who comment, if not on a daily basis, damn close to it. Who says, love the show. May I make one suggestion? Addressed at least one or two comments in the chat. Others on the JAKIB channel rely on it. You don't have to, but still it keeps us engaged. I'll comment on this. I think I've commented on it before, but if it needs repeating, so be it. We don't use the stream. I don't use the stream. It's on me. I'm running the show. It seems like the guys on the stream have a good time entertaining themselves and talking back and forth amongst themselves. They don't really need Mac and Mac. They have a good time going back and forth amongst them. And more power to them. If we're an outlet for them and they can go back and forth, have at it, boys. Have a good time. The stream doesn't really pose questions to you or I.
They usually, there's a couple trolling things.
We got 49er guys and Cowboy guys and everything else, but they don't really refer to Mac and Mac. So why would I want to eavesdrop on somebody else's conversation if they're going back and forth amongst each other? have a good time. Go for it. But it's not something we're going to discuss on the show, what one streaming commenter is going to say to the other. And then we also got this stream. Could we focus on some draft and free agency this upcoming offseason? Super Bowl is not interesting this year. Okay, that's one opinion. And that might be an opinion as to why we don't use the stream as much as we do.
Yeah.
I think it's a tremendously interesting Super Bowl. And if your focus is if the Eagles ain't in it, I ain't caring. Okay, that's your call too. More power to you. But if you want a response from us, I'll go, I think you're loopy. If you don't think Patrick Mahomes against Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan against Andy Reid, a dynasty team like the Chiefs against the most talented team roster-wise in the National Football League is an interesting Super Bowl, enjoy knitting at 6 o'clock on Sunday. I don't know what you're going to be doing with yourself, but I think the rest of the world is going to be turning on this non-interesting Super Bowl.
I'm going to go 125 million or so. For
this non-interesting game, you think they're doing 125 million, huh, Johnny?
I think they will.
Yeah, they might.
Maybe I'm going low.
You might.
By the way, we do this show every day. We're going to talk plenty of free agency and plenty of draft.
No, the Eagles are going to report to camp and we'll go, oh, shoot, we forgot.
We forgot the draft. We forgot the draft. We're going to have draft shows. We're going to have.
Oh, by the way, Eric at home 920, who was at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. Apparently he missed yesterday's show when we had Tommy Lawler, who was at the Senior Bowl last year. So how have we not even acknowledged the draft at this point? Of course we have.
We're going to have our guy Ian Cummings coming on. He's great with the draft. We're going to have Rick Saratella, who's phenomenal. We're going to talk plenty of draft. We're going to talk plenty of free agency. But yeah, there's a pretty important game in the NFL coming up this week. You always have to talk about the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have criticized Philadelphia fans for being provincial. I among them. This is a perfect example of that. It's an important game. It's a compelling game. It's got about 90 million storylines in the game. If the Eagles are and we're an Eagles-centric show, but we talk Eagles all the time. We're going to talk about the linebackers coach in a few minutes. We talk about everything. We talk more Eagles than we talk about the 53rd guy on the roster. We get more into the weeds than anybody else when it comes to this team. Super Bowl week, you got to talk about the Super Bowl teams at some point, and we do it judiciously, and we cover both aspects of it because there is a lot going on with the Eagles, mainly with the coaching staff. But and we've talked about it all the time. We've talked about it.
And what bothers me, you talk the provincial nature of the town. I'm not critical of it being provincial. That's perfectly fine. Just accept it and acknowledge it. So what are you talking about? We're not provincial. Oh, yeah, you are. I've been doing talk in this town for 33 years. It's the biggest small town in the country. It is what it is. That's good. I think it's part of what makes Philadelphia, part of the charm of Philadelphia. But some people get all bent out of shape when you call them provincial. Yeah, you are. That is a perfect example of it. Let's talk about the Eagles linebacker coach, who was, as John McMullen told me before the show started, maybe their fourth choice, maybe their fifth choice for linebacker coach. Yeah, that's more important than Kansas City against San Francisco this year in the world of football. If there were ever a provincial statement, that would be it. Eagles linebacker coach, fifth choice, more important than Chiefs versus 49ers. Sorry to say, guys. That's just the way we're going to do Birds 365 going forward. 95% of it about the Eagles. 5% of it about the rest of the world of football. And every once in a while, we'll even get off.
Because my argument would be the rest of the world of football has an impact on the Eagles.
Of course it does.
One of my problems I talk about all the time, how can a top 10 offense be regarded as so pathetic? And this is a perfect example because you're not paying attention to the rest of the league. This is a perfect example. So you think a top 10 offense is the worst offense in the history of mankind people talk about the defense, which actually was bad, being about the worst defense in May. It wasn't even the worst defense this year. It was really bad. It wasn't even the worst this year. Other teams, you have to put everything in context amongst the league that they are playing in. And that's why it's important that you have to pay attention to the rest of the league. But yeah, you got me on a tangent. But yeah, that's how you get into these. Oh, so-and-so was the worst coach in the history of the world, and he's got, a top 10 offense. Or this is the worst Eagles defense in the history of mankind. It's not even the worst defense in the NFL this season.
Like you said, it all ties back into the Eagles. And I said 95% could be about Eagles, direct Eagles, but there is ties to other things. If you don't like it, you do. Here's a guy whose red name I do recognize, John Bell, who streams in and comments often. Comments something about he doesn't like. I don't think he likes anything. He specifically said today, at least your producer is telling you we don't care. Well, Zane hadn't told us anything. This is Jody McDonald noticing the tweets and surmising what I surmise. So it's got nothing to do with the producer. Don't put this on Zander. Has nothing to do. If we wanted Super Bowl coverage, we'd watch the many outlets with better coverage. Oh, take a shot. Our coverage isn't good enough. Other outlets have better coverage. That's good. I'll check back, but waste someone else's time. Talk to the fans. Okay. See you, John.
See ya.
Appreciate having you.
You're always here. You're always here. I mean, who's that a reflection on?
He's one of the names I do recognize. So we got a bunch of great commenters on the stream. It's just, like I said, they seem to enjoy engaging with each other more than they do engaging with us, which is fine. But John Bell, have a good day. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to talk a little about the Super Bowl today. And I have no reservations about doing it and losing you, an Eagle fan who wants Eagles 100% of the time, 100% of the days. That would, to me, be us shirking our responsibility. I'm not ready to make my pick. I'm going to make my pick tomorrow. If you listen to us this week in the very short segments we do on the Super Bowl, Johnny at Mac is leaning toward Kansas City. He wants to pick San Francisco, but can't get past. I can't pick against Mahomes. I know where he's coming from because I picked the Chiefs to win outright last week against Baltimore. So I'm feeling that pull too. But I do think that the 49ers have the better roster. And I think this is a 1-2-53, including team's coach. So I'm not ready to make my pick. I am on the record. I think it's going to be high scoring. The under-over is 47.5. I think one of these two teams is going to score.
My problem is, boy, everybody I know is picking Kansas City, and that bothers me. That always bothers me when everybody goes in one direction.
Are you sure your partner's picking Kansas City? You say
no, not yet.
You do the show with every single day.
Not yet. And technically, I haven't committed either. And I'm trying to get somebody. Hopefully, Eric can do it. Talk me into taking San Francisco because I hate when people boil everything down to quarterback versus quarterback. I really hate it because there are so many other avenues you can win a football game. And Brock Purdy can win this football game as the quarterback of the 49ers and win the Super Bowl and play well. I said the same thing last year about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was the best player on the field last year in Super Bowl 57. I firmly believe that. He's not better than Patrick Mahomes. I never said that. I said that consistently. I said he played great on one day, and he played better than Patrick Mahomes on one day. They still weren't able to win the game, but he's not a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. The same thing will hold true if San Francisco wins the game. Patrick Mahomes is still the better quarterback, but the point is you can win games. The better quarterback doesn't always win. Then why would any of us be here? Because we could easily pick.
Hand the Chiefs the next 10 Lombardi trophies and move on with life.
Exactly. So, San Francisco to me has the better roster. I'm with you there. I've been on that train for 3 years. I've been talking about San Francisco's roster. It's the deepest, the most talented in the NFL. But I don't like the way they're playing either. I don't like the way they played against Green Bay. I don't like the way they played against Detroit. Now, I give them credit for persevering, especially against Detroit. They shouldn't have won that game. But you know what? 16 things had to go wrong, and they all did, and they won the game. They deserve credit for it. But it just bothers me the way they're playing, sort of like the style points discussion. Get it back to the Eagles we had with the Eagles when they were 10-1. Oh, but the style points weren't there. And guess what? Style points indicated something because the Eagles collapsed. I don't think that's nearly to a drastic degree for San Francisco, who's played well, pretty much all season, except that little stretch when they lost Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel at the same time. But it does bother me the way they're playing in the playoffs. And Kansas City's been hotter, obviously, in the playoffs. Much more struggles in the regular season, but they've gotten a little bit hotter at the right time.
Yeah, you're going glass half empty. I'm going glass half full. San Francisco's shown the ability to come from behind. I think that's a key. You go into the biggest game of the year. If you've got a team that needs to play in front and you don't get in front that day, you're dead in the water. And San Francisco has shown that they can fall behind and still turn it on and get the shoot. They went from down 17 to up 10 against the Lions. 27 unanswered points. I think that's pretty good. You can look, oh my God, they fell down by 17. Well, they got up by 10. They scored 27 unanswered points.
Well, no, I mean, they should. I mean, on paper, I mean, they have so many explosive players. I don't question whether they can come back. They're a team that can get down by 2 touchdowns and not have to panic and come back and score points. And I agree with you about the points, and they're going to score some points. And I don't think San Francisco's defense has played up to their talent level in the playoffs. So I think Kansas City's going to score some points. I have no doubt that they can do that. My thing is, if you look at the NFC Championship game, look, they didn't do anything to make Josh Reynolds drop that football. If the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble was a great play by Fred Warner and he's just stripping him, and I'd say, all right, but it was kind of like it was a bad fumble by a rookie player. I'm saying if you need to counter, it's similar to what we're talking about the Eagles against the Chiefs yesterday with Matt Bergerame. MBS dropping the pass. Well, the Eagles won the game, but you can't count on that. The play's there to be made, and the player didn't make the play. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it works out for you. But long term, are you going to count on? Maybe you can count on Kadarius Toney dropping a pass in a big situation.
No,
but are you going to count?
I don't think you have to worry about that this Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet good money Kadarius Toney sees
but if it's
part of the field.
Rashee Rice, who's been really hot, are you going to count on him dropping a pass in a big situation? Travis Kelce dropped a pass against the Eagles. You can't count on that kind of stuff. Not that it doesn't happen, but I certainly wouldn't want to hang my hat on it and say, oh, that's good. So they got to play better is all I'm trying to point out. And I think they would admit that. I think they'd be the first to admit that.
I think that it's a toss-up game that can go either way. And we'll talk about it a little today, a little bit more tomorrow when we get closer to the game. But this is Birds 365, which, again, I'm getting crushed here on the stream because we're not talking about the Eagles. Sorry about that. We'll rectify the situation. We'll get Martin Frank up here, Mr. Eagle Beat Reporter, to join us next. And, yeah, I'm going to ask Martin about the Super Bowl. Well, we got him, too. Mostly about the Eagles and the coaching staff.
By the way, I tied the Eagles into the Super Bowl talk. I tied them into the Super Bowl talk.
Shame on you. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. You got Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Get ready for the big game with Underdog Fantasy and sign up right now with your verified account. Use the word WIN when you register. Underdog Fantasy is giving away $1 million in giveaways and Underdog credit on Super Bowl Sunday. And there's a new customer special for anyone that signs up this week for Patrick Mahomes. Get ready for Super Sunday and set up your account right now with Underdog Fantasy and use the word WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
McMullen and McDonald, your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. We've got Martin Frank jumping in with us from the Delaware News Journal. Martin, please don't refer to the Super Bowl. We've gotten off on a tangent here, talked a little too much. No, we're going to ask you about the Super Bowl, Martin. But first things first, Eagles, new coaching staff. They landed a king yesterday. What are we to read into that? The new king of the Eagle defense, is that going to be the key to the Eagles being able to be talked about leading into the final game of the year next year? Is he going to be the guy to get the Birds back to the ball?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Bobby King, baby. Outside linebackers coach. You know, it's funny, Martin. Martin will get this. Every year, we go to practice and it starts getting cold, and the kind of grass that the Eagles have at the NovaCare complex immediately turns, a brownish color, because that's what it's designed to do. But anyway, no matter what, every time, no matter how many practices, and Martin knows this, we take pictures of the players, we'll put video up. You got a couple commenters. What's wrong with the grass? Why is the grass dead? Can't they do something about the grass? No matter how many times, year after year after year after year. I say that to say this, Martin. I get it. Every time I put the Eagles hired a new coach, Bobby King yesterday, is going to be the linebackers coach. Right. I get and I want to hear if you get these. I get these. Is he any good? I'm like, what are their PFF grades for assistant positional coaches? I love these people that decree, oh, this guy's great. I don't know. I'm sure he's brilliant, but I don't know much about Bobby King. Do you have an inside info on Bobby King?
I'm afraid I don't. I just know, Vic Fangio is pretty much turning over the whole defensive coaching staff, and I'm assuming that he's got a pretty big say in all these guys that they're hiring. I mean, they got a defensive backs coach the other day, Christian Parker from the Broncos, the linebacker coach you just mentioned. They got a defensive line coach who was the Seahawks defensive coordinator. So, I mean, it seems like the entire defensive coaching staff is turning over, and I would like to think that Vic Fangio has a big role in that, and these are guys that he thinks will execute his defensive style the way he wants it to be done. So I would say that Fangio probably knows that these guys are good more than we do.
Yeah, I would say that's the case. Yeah. Now, I will say there's a concern for me here, because the Eagles interviewed Joe Barry and didn't get him. He went to Miami as linebackers coach, run game coordinator. They interviewed Mike Caldwell. He went to Las Vegas, same title. And then his linebacker coach in Miami last year got hired by Green Bay with a larger title. This seems to be the first time he had to go down on the list, so to speak. That a little bit of a concern there, at least.
I mean, maybe. It just depends. I mean, like I know I think some of these guys are pretty young too. So maybe, they're trying to get like the next Jonathan Gannon, like a young guy.
Oh, be careful there. You're
Yeah,
going to really
I mean,
upset people.
You know what I meant. Like Gannon
Yes,
was
I know.
a rising young star
Yeah.
when the Eagles hired him and stuff. So maybe it's somebody like that they can develop into becoming, Fangio's 65.
Yeah.
He's going to be doing this forever. So, maybe they found some young, rising star and hopefully can groom them to eventually take over if that's the case.
Two things about the Bobby King hiring. As John pointed out, they talked to other guys first before they hired Bobby King, more well-known names around the National Football League. Here's how I'll put a positive spin on it. This seems to be more of a Sirianni hire than a Fangio hire. Some people think of that as a negative spin. I'll go positive because, yeah, we know that the Emperor was told to drop his clothes, the head coach, and he had to turn over everything to his new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and all the guys that he hired had hand in hiring are no longer Eagle coaches, not named Stoutland. The only contact between Coach King and an Eagle coach is Sirianni back to San Diego from several years ago. He got no passover with Fangio. So it sounds like Nick put up his hand and goes, "Hey, Vic, I got a guy I knew 4 years ago in San Diego. He's good with me. You want to sit down and meet him?" I'm sure Fangio was in on it and gave his vote of approval, but it sounds like more of a Sirianni hire. And I want Sirianni to have some say in his coaching staff, not just have every single person dictated to him. We know he's lost most of his powers, but just the fact that he has maybe enough influence to get one linebacker coach hired, I'm okay with that. And number two, about the other guys taking other jobs, who are the Eagles linebackers?
Yeah, that's probably why. It's interesting. That's what I was going to bring up.
I'll give him this much credit, right? He can read the Eagle roster and say, "Wait, I'm the linebacker coach, and we got this on the roster right now, and I'm going to be in charge of it.
I'm
going
with
to be
you.
held responsible for it."
I'm with you, but I'm
Warner or guys like that. Exactly right.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Jody, and I'm glad you brought that up because I have some empathy for DJ Elliott. I might be the only one, but I have some empathy for this reason. But number one, because of what Jody just said about the talent level, also what he had to go through. They bring in Zach Cunningham late. He had to get him ready. Miles Jack didn't work out. He had to get him ready. Shaq Leonard in season. He had to get him ready, like immediately to play. Howie Roseman's up there saying, "Oh, Zach Cunningham had a great year." he said that. He went out of his way. Nobody asked him. He went out of his way.
Kobe Dean too. He went out of his way to say he still believes in the Kobe Dean and all that. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely right. When you look at, going back to Jody's first point about, Nick Sirianni getting a say on defense, you notice how they didn't let him have any guys from Indianapolis. They're like, all right, if you want to go with a guy from the Chargers like 6 years ago, that's probably far enough removed, for us. So,
well, Nick said he had to go outside the family. He called it the family.
Yeah, there were not going to be any Indianapolis Colts guys.
No family guys. Yeah. Except Kevin Patullo. You can keep Kevin Patullo.
Sure.
And Jeff Stoutland, who was family before Sirianni became family. So he's
sticking
out. Yeah, did you see the video? Stoutland talking Portuguese to get ready for the game in Brazil. Martin Frank, was there even a thought, a blip on the radar about Stoutland not coming back this offseason? I didn't think so, but a lot of people reading between the lines go, "Ooh, good thing Stoutland's coming back. He might not have." Really?
I mean, Stoutland has survived how many? He came in, Chip Kelly
came in with Chip,
and now, Sirianni and stuff. And Stoutland can stay as long as he wants. I mean, he's probably out of everybody, like even the head coach, and
Oh yeah, he's like the new Jason Peters. He's ahead of the head coach on the flow chart.
He pretty much can stay as long as he wants.
And his wife laid down the law. He was leaving for Alabama after Doug Peterson got fired. He wanted to go because he loved Doug and he was pissed, and his wife kind of put her foot down. So you got that too. His wife's like, I don't want to move. So Eagles fans are a little bit lucky with Jeff Stoutland, to say the least.
Yeah, but he's gonna have a challenge this year. I mean, assuming Kelsey retires, you're putting Cam Jurgens, replacing a 7-time Pro Bowl player with Cam Jurgens, who hasn't started a game at center in his career. And if Jurgens moves over to center, then you got a new right guard, and it could be Tyler Steen. Tyler
Steen, deep end. Yeah,
exactly. So
where are you on Kelsey, Martin? He's out there in Vegas playing poker with Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura and comedians. He's doing all that stuff with the podcast and his brother. A lot of people are taking his hints at the Pro Bowl, saying he's coming back. Where are you with Jason Kelsey? I'm still leaning retirement. Jody's leaning he's coming back. Where are you on that scale?
I'm leaning retirement. I mean, I think, pretty much after that playoff game against the Buccaneers, when a bunch of guys were saying in the locker room that, he told them he was retiring, and then all of a sudden he backtracked and everything and said, well, I haven't made up my mind officially. I still think that's what he was going to do. I think he went into last season all along thinking that was going to be his last year. He started preparing for his post-football playing life, with the podcast and other TV experience, appearances and stuff like that. So I would be surprised if he came back. Let's just leave it at that. I don't think he is.
Yeah, Martin's going glass half empty, kind of like John with the 49ers. I think that's one of the big reasons he's coming back. That Tampa game sucked so bad. And oh, by the way, don't tell him I said this. He wasn't good either. He was part of the problem against Tampa. Jason didn't have a very good game. He doesn't want to go out on that note. He doesn't want to go out with that sour taste. I think he's coming back in part because it ended as badly as it did. And I don't think Kelsey wants that to be his final note on the field in the National Football League. And being pushed on a sled at the Pro Bowl doesn't count as his last moment on the field, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, I'm sticking with Kelsey's coming back. Why not? Go ahead.
I was going to say that's an interesting point because we all thought he was going to retire after that, final Doug season that ended 4-11 and won. And, I remember I'll never forget the image, like him and Zach Ertz and Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Sitting on a bench. Yeah.
And it seemed like none of those guys were coming back. And shockingly, I thought that was like probably the most surprising thing when he said he was going to come back, with a brand new coach, a brand new quarterback, a whole new offense, basically. But I don't know. This is like,
it's amazing how long 3 All-Pros later, here we are still talking about it.
2 years later, it's kind of like, and that last game was against, never mind, it wasn't Tampa Bay, but I just thought back then he was going to retire. So
he's been surprising us all. That's why when he goes out, when he finally retires, I'm going to be wrong. We could be doing Birds 365 and 30 at 2037. I'm going to go, Jason's coming back next year. He's not going to go out on that note. So at some point I'll be wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong this year. I don't know that we've had Jan Martin since that Tampa Bay game. I want to ask you about the quarterback. There are probably a list of 28 things that you can point to and said that could have contributed to Jalen Hurts going backwards this year. Give me the top 3 in your order. Eliminate the other 25. We'll acknowledge that there are a whole bunch of things, some of them Jalen's fault, some of them not his fault at all. He paid the price for someone else or some other decision. But give me what you think were the 3 reasons why Jalen Hurts went back, whatever percentage we want to agree on that he went backwards this year.
Yeah. I would say number 1 was the injuries. He'll never tell us as much as we'll ask. But I mean, the knee was obviously a factor. He didn't run like he did in like last year, for example. And I think that had a big role. I mean, when you're not a threat to run and stuff, teams can say, all right, we don't have to like, have a spy on you or, treat you as a +1. We're not going to be, the read option isn't going to kill us. More on, the receivers. And I think that happened to a large extent, and they couldn't get it back. I also think, he tried to play hero ball a little bit too much. That obviously was Carson Wentz's downfall, 3 or 4 years ago. But I think there was some of that too. He was forcing passes into tight windows and stuff. And you saw that with the interceptions. I mean, he threw 15 this year, which is as many as he'd thrown in the 2 previous years. He just wasn't looking at, and another one, he wasn't looking over the middle of the field like he did in 2022. I mean, how many times did we see like a slant to AJ Brown go for 30 or 40 yards, the year before? And we didn't really see that nearly as much. I mean, you look at the game against, what was it, Seahawks, when he threw that interception at the end. I mean, it was kind of a risky pass in a situation where you didn't need to throw that ball. And then we found out later that they kind of improvised on that play, but still.
Yeah.
It just, I would say those were the top 3 reasons why he might have regressed this year.
Well, I want to talk about the ecosystem around Jalen Hurts, and obviously there's been a lot of criticism of Brian Johnson. The Eagles moved on. Alex Tanney, the Eagles moved on. And I want to focus on Alex because he was the one working with them sort of on a day-to-day basis the most. And if you think about Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson working, and my dog is chiming in, so I apologize. Chiming in on he had a career year when Brian was working with him on a day-to-day basis, Martin. Now, Alex, for those who didn't see, got a new gig in Indianapolis. Makes sense because Shane Steichen is there. He also, and I haven't seen this officially, but somebody, whoever covers him for The Athletic, I forget the name, I apologize, I'll look it up, said he's going to be the passing game coordinator in Indianapolis. So he's getting a promotion, Alex Tanney. We all know how well Nick Sirianni talked about Alex Tanney last year, coming into the year, raved about him, couldn't talk enough about him. He and Shane are thick as thieves. From moment one, I said, I heard he was going to land in Indy, and sure enough, he lands in Indy. I can't believe Nick Sirianni thinks Alex Tanney's a bad coach after everything he said about him. Long-winded way of saying, what the hell's going on here with Jeffrey Lurie forcing Nick Sirianni to go away from people he likes and trusts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you about Alex Tanney. I was kind of, surprised. But the more you think about it, I mean, they brought in a new coordinator, Kellen Moore, and he's going to want to hire his own guy. I mean, I don't think that was a Sirianni decision as much as a Kellen Moore.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Not a Sirianni decision.
And, this guy, Doug Nussmeier, I believe.
Yeah.
He's worked with Kellen Moore both in Dallas and with the Chargers. And, I mean, you can't really argue with the results there either. I mean, Dak Prescott, is still one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. We all know Justin Herbert is a great quarterback too. So I think that was more Kellen Moore than Nick Sirianni saying, "Oh,
is that a good thing though? Is that a good thing that
we're gonna find out?" I mean, they're changing pretty much everything. Like these are the 2 guys who work with Jalen Hurts are going to be the 2 guys who are going to work with Jalen Hurts on a daily basis. And obviously you need to see the results that you didn't see this past season with Brian Johnson and Alex Tanney. So, I mean, if you're going to change everything like they are with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, then you got to let Kellen Moore, bring in the guy who he thinks, is going to.
Yeah, I agree with that part of it. I get my issue is with the overriding aspect of it, going back and saying, if you're going to keep Nick Sirianni, why are you keeping Nick Sirianni if you're going to go away from everything Nick Sirianni does? Is kind of where I am.
Here's my answer to your point, John. People have overarching jobs. You're the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. You are expected to do a lot of things, and you're evaluated on all of them, and you can evaluate them separately. Like Will Chamberlain, up until a point, was the greatest player in basketball history. He wasn't a good foul shooter. And no arguing.
No,
he still is the greatest player of all time. Couldn't make free throws to save his life. So you can have a hole in your game. Who is the coach that Sirianni hired specifically? All Sirianni, since he got here to Philadelphia, where he go, he picked him. He knew him. He was really good. Who's that guy?
Shane.
Yeah, the coach of the Colts.
Yeah, Shane.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows like how Nick Sirianni doesn't really have the power anymore. I mean, he can't bring in his own guys anymore. I mean, it's got to be, the only way he saved his job is by saying, all right, I'll fire Brian Johnson. I'll fire, defensive coordinator guys to sign Matt Patricia, and I'll let those guys, run the offense and run the defense. He's a CEO coach now. That's what he is. It's not his offense anymore. That's basically what it comes down to.
Wasn't he CEO coach before? When he gave up play calling to Shane in year one, to me, that's when he became a CEO coach. But to me, the difference is, and this is the threading the needle, Martin, to me, he was a CEO coach with power, and he could make decisions, overriding decisions. Now he's Jason Garrett with Jerry Jones. Now he's like, all right, sit in the corner, clap, be a culture guy, motivate people. And by the way, he's good at all that stuff.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, John Harbaugh's been like that for years in Baltimore. I mean, you can't argue with the results there.
Yeah, but has he? That's my point. Can't John do stuff? If he fired Cam Cameron, you and I were at the Baltimore San Francisco Super Bowl and the god awful Superdome, and the electrical. The Ravens were cruising. Then the 49ers almost came back. But that year he fired Cam Cameron, I believe it was, and then hired Jim Caldwell.
Right.
He had the power to do that kind of stuff. Maybe Nick will still have that.
Well, we know Nick had it. At least
we know he had it.
That he said it. He fired Sean Desai.
Yeah.
How'd that work out for him? The Cam Cameron firing worked out fine for Harbaugh. It didn't work so well for Sirianni. That's
but my question is, and you're right, there's no doubt he had it. I'm saying, does he still have it? I don't think he still has it.
I don't. I think he pushed his chips into the middle of the table and said, "Give me Matt Patricia." Lost. So he lost the power along with it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he has the power anymore. And that's how he kept his job. I mean, it's becoming pretty evident that, Jeffrey Lurie or Howie Roseman, those guys say, all right, Nick, you want to stay here? You're going to have to do this, this, and this. And Nick said yes. And 4 years ago, Doug Peterson said no. So,
yeah, I agree. That's
what it was.
And that pretty much is the difference between Doug and Nick. So if you're Nick, I want you to put your Nick Sirianni cap on, or your visor with the numbers of injured players.
With the pencil thing hanging.
Yeah, pencil thing. We'll go, well, we might get away from the pencil because of Matt Patricia, but are you kind of in your moments when you're alone, are you thinking about the next chapter already if you're Nick Sirianni? Because I don't know, it looks pretty defined to me. Look, even if you go back to being a Super Bowl contender, let's pretend they're 14-3 next year and they have a deep run in the playoffs. Then you're going to be in the same situation you were in 2022, where whether it's Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, whether it's Kellen Moore, it's not going to be big, so it's not going to be both. But you're going to lose coaches, and then you're going to start this all over again. If you're Nick Sirianni, do you see that writing on the wall, or are you so competitive you're like, I got to make the best of my situation?
Yeah, I think it's more the competitive thing. I mean, Nick Sirianni, like, doing whatever he needed to do is to keep his job. I think shows that to some extent. And you brought up a good point. I mean, yes, when he hired, when Nick first got the job and he brought in Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, you kind of knew at some point both of those guys were going to leave.
Howie would say it about Gannon from day one. We're renting this
right.
guy.
Yeah.
We're renting this guy.
Right.
Yeah. So
I remember that.
yeah.
But Vic Fangio is not going to leave. I mean, unless he gets fired.
No, he's not.
So you're pretty, it's kind of like Andy Reid with Jim Johnson. I mean, if Fangio can do what Jim Johnson did back, 20 years ago, I mean, he's there for life, Stalin's there for life.
And so here would be my answer to that. Sorry to interrupt, Martin.
Yeah.
Should the Eagles have hired a young defensive coordinator? Should they have hired an old man offensive coordinator because of the fear of, well, if he does well, we'll lose him? I think that's defeatist thinking. Your job is to get the best coaches you can get,
right,
and not worry about, oh my God, if he's really good, he's going to leave and become a head coach. If Kellen Moore becomes and goes and gets a head coaching job, there's a reason for it. He was really good here. That's a good thing for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right. And it's still an attractive job to any offensive coordinator. You're going to come in, you're going to have the quarterback already set. You're going to have Devontae Smith, probably going to get an extension this year at some point. So, he's one of the top wide receivers. A.J. Brown still has a couple years left on his contract. I mean, and the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, loves offense more than anything. So, you're going to get top candidates. So if Kellen Moore ends up leaving, then, they're going to find somebody else. I just think the transition from Shane Steichen to Brian Johnson, I think they just kind of said, all right, let's keep everything as familiar as possible because Brian knows Jalen Hurts and everything. And, he's spent the last couple of years as the quarterback's coach and, he can just take over and it's going to be seamless. But I think what they learned from that is, the next time, let's say after 2 years when Kellen Moore leaves to become a head coach, they're going to say, all right, let's find the best possible candidate. And there are going to be a lot of them and they're going to want the job. So I think that would be the difference.
Martin, we got scolded for not talking enough Eagles free agency. So I'm going to start that with you. Okay. I was looking at the Eagles free agent list and I said, boy, besides Kelsey and Fletcher Cox, which is about retirement more than, and then, if Kelsey wants to play, he'll be back. If Fletcher wants to play, I think he'll be back. It might be more of a money problem with Fletcher, but we'll see. Aside from those two guys, and maybe the punter who was great, Braden Mann, when he got here. And maybe Rick Lovato, I think, is free agent as well. But I don't count the long snapper because Rick will be back. He's tremendous. And
he might not be on the 53-man roster when they cut down.
Yeah, they did that last year.
Yeah, they did it 2 years ago. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why, because he's a vested veteran and they have a good relationship and they can play those roster games. Mm-hmm. So he'll be back. I would not be upset about losing any free agent. Any. DeAndre Swift would be the best.
Yeah.
But I mean, would you really be upset and say, oof, we can't overcome that? There's no free agent that you say, well, we got to have this guy back. Except Braden Mann.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's Braden Mann was probably as good a pickup.
He was great. Yeah.
It might be the best pickup of the year. But I would say, I mean, you can replace DeAndre Swift would be a big loss, but you can replace him in the draft. And I think you're going to lose Quez Watkins,
Oh no. Say it isn't so.
There's a big
Martin's Quez's guy, man. Quez got very angsty, and rightfully so, because people crapped on Quez consistently. So he got very angry. Martin's one of the few people we would occasionally talk to at the end.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I mean, my point is you can replace Quez Watkins in the draft. You can replace nothing.
Olamide Zaccheaus.
I shouldn't say replace. I should say improve upon.
Martin Quez is not going to talk to you now.
Yeah, no, he didn't talk to me after the season and everything. So it's already that ship's already left the port. But yeah,
don't know how you're gonna get over that, Martin. It would just be crushing me to my soul if Quez stopped talking to me. He says with tongue firmly implanted in cheek.
It's been haunting me. But like my point is, they're gonna have to spend. They're gonna.
Oh, you got Jody choking. Well done, Martin.
Yeah, very good.
They're gonna have to spend to sign some free agents, and that's gonna be it's gonna have to be on the defense. I mean, I think if you're looking at the offense, you can kind of replace guys, improve guys in the draft and everything. So you don't really have to spend there. I think they're going to have to shell out a lot of money, for some really good guys on defense. Because, even though you're not really losing any free agents, you do have to get a lot better. I mean, you look at their defensive stats, they were 30th in points allowed, 31st in pass defense.
Yeah.
And
they were bad. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't replace that with, young guys like Keely Ringo and
I like Keely Ringo though. I got high hopes for Keely Ringo.
But he's not.
You can't count on it.
No,
I agree with you.
You need to, they'll lose James. They'll probably won't bring back James Bradbury, but you got to bring in somebody. You can pair on the other side with Slay. You got to upgrade at linebacker. I mean, you can count on Nakobe Dean coming back, but
can you? I know how he is, but
how he is. I mean, it seems like a done deal there. But I mean, you gotta, you can spend and get somebody better than Zach Cunningham. If you're losing,
played pretty well according to Howie.
If you're losing Fletcher Cox on the defensive line, well, you can spend big and get somebody who's younger and probably better at this point in his career.
Well, I think on the defensive line, I think it's got to be about getting better in-house, just getting Jalen Carter better, getting Jordan Davis better, getting Milton Williams better. Those are good players, but you just got to get them to reach their ceilings.
Yeah, they're also young, though, and I think you need a veteran to kind of show them the way. I mean, a guy like Chris Jones is going to be a free agent.
That's big time.
I
can't believe you never know with Kansas City. They let Tyreek Hill walk, but
exactly. They're not in the greatest salary cap situation. Yeah. They can't keep everybody. So I'm not saying,
that's a lot of money. Chris Jones.
All right. Let me, I've already done a really.
Somebody at that kind of level. I mean, if you get somebody like that to pair next to Jalen Carter, Jordan.
That'd be pretty stinking good. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I've done a really good job of ticking off all the streamers today. So why don't I go swing for the fences here? The Eagles aren't in good salary cap space either, because Martin Frank just told me, well, they'll be moving on from Bradbury. That's not good. That's a massive cap hit. And Bradbury stunk. He was terrible at the end of the year. I'm not questioning your evaluation of they need to move on from Bradbury, as big a Bradbury fan as I've been. And I was calling for the Eagles to sign him when he was still with the Giants. He hadn't even officially been released yet, but there was enough smoke up there to go, yeah, the Giants are going to move on from Bradbury. And I loved it when they signed him. I loved it when they re-signed him. He fell apart. He fell off the cliff this offseason. So I agree with you. That's a massive cap hit. They've got a lot of guys already under contract. Where are they going to get the money for Chris Jones? Well, I don't see that for a millisecond. Do they have the ability to pay top of the market for one of the best DTs in the league?
You can release Bradbury with that post-June 1st destiny, and I think
big Martin.
You can get a lot of money. You can release Kevin Byard.
I was just gonna say, if you release Kevin Byard, you're saving $13 million right there, and that more than offsets what you would lose by, releasing Bradbury. So, and there are ways. I mean, you restructure Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat. Those guys you save probably another 15 between the two of them, probably 15 to 20 million right there off the cap. I mean,
I was just looking at the market value for Chris Jones, according to Spotrac, would be 28.4 million a year, 3 years, 85 million. He's big big
That's
ticket
a lot.
item, as
You
they
know,
say.
you put in, Howie's great at putting in those voidable.
Oh
years.
yeah, he could figure it out from that. I can't believe
I
Kansas
mean,
City
really,
would.
this year's, it wouldn't be 28 million on this year's cap. I mean,
Like
you know,
I already got. Now we got. This will be the time of year because I've opened the can on free agency here with Martin Frank. I already got an Antoine Winfield here.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay is not letting him go. They're going to franchise him. So stop it right off the bat. Not Martin. Stop it. He's not going anywhere.
You don't think the Chiefs will franchise Jones?
They might. That's what I'm saying. Now they had issues with Chris Jones last year. And they franchised him, I believe.
Right.
And there were some. I don't know how that worked out, so I have to do the research on that. Sometimes
he missed
when
the
you
first game. He sat up in the stands for the first game.
Yes, he missed the first game. I'm saying I don't know how the contract worked out. They might have put something in there that you can't franchise me again. Players do that. I don't know. I have to look into it. But yeah, they had some issues with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay loves Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay's gonna, if they don't get something done, they're gonna franchise him. So stop talking about Antoine Winfield Jr. With Chris Jones, at least there's been some angst with the Chiefs in the past. So maybe that can complicate things.
You don't think Antoine could whip up some angst real fast if they start talking about franchise tagging him?
Yeah, he won't be happy, but they'll franchise tag him. That's for 2 years down the road. The Chiefs already did it with Chris Jones, so they're farther down the road. By no means am I saying the Eagles are getting Chris Jones. I don't think they're getting Chris Jones. I think they're going to build on Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, as I said. That's too expensive. But Martin's right. You can extend Hassan Reddick, get his number down. You can release Bradbury. I think they will post June 1st. You can release Kevin Byard. I think they will. They can get a lot of money pretty quickly. I think
Byard, you release him, it's 13 million you save on the cap right there. So that takes you from 20 to 33 right there.
Yeah. They can get a lot of money pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So it's not about fitting them, but I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think they're in a position to go after a player like Chris Jones.
Yeah, they
Love
can.
to see it.
Since you're asking, the Chiefs can franchise tag Jones again. $32 million for the franchise tag if they want to do it. It's a big number, but they can stick the tag on him again if they want. Don't know if they would do.
And also, Eagles wise, I believe he's 29 going on 30. So
I think like when the Eagles signed Hargrave, I think he was like 28, maybe. They gave him a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, my overall point is if you don't get Chris Jones, you can still go after somebody else.
You can get somebody, yeah. They're going to have some money to get somebody if they want to get somebody on defense,
right.
Yeah.
And you talk about the Eagles free agents. They would look at the list. I think they got 14 free agents, and I'm with John. None of my oh my God, they got to get it done now before they actually get the free agency. All 14 of those guys have a better chance of being back on the same contract if they just re-signed for the same deal they had than Kevin Byard does for coming back on his contract. That has no chance of happening. So you can just go ahead and add Byard's name to the free agent list because they're going to cut him because of the money that Martin just said they would save. There's no chance he plays on a contract he's got left. None.
Yeah. I would actually be really interested to see what happens at running back because not only like is Swift a free agent, but like a lot of the top guys are like Saquon Barkley. I mean, and the market just isn't there for a running back. So like, would Howie go like maybe 5-6 million a year for someone like Barkley or something like that? I mean, or would he just? You could probably. Get somebody in the draft.
I think he wants Isaiah Pacheco more than Saquon Barkley. I think he wants a 7th round pick. Lou Nichols. I wrote about Lou Nichols for some reason. 7th round pick of Green Bay, I believe. Now, Green Bay's loaded at running back. They had Aaron Jones. They had A.J. Dillon, and they had another good back. They were loaded at running back, so they cut him. The Eagles picked him up, put him on the practice squad. He led the nation in rushing. Lou Nichols, just keep a little dog ear on Lou Nichols. And that's the kind of player they want at running back. If he can play, and I have no idea, but if he can do some things, he can be relevant. I don't think they want to pay Saquon Barkley. I don't think they want to go that route.
No,
I could be wrong.
I'd just be interested to see like how much those guys get like in free agency.
Yeah, well, it's always that market, and DeAndre talked about that. And by the way, I think Miles Sanders hurt DeAndre Swift.
Oh yeah,
because he played so poorly, and he got the longest term deal. Yeah,
exactly. Nobody's getting that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to get even worse. At MFrank NFL. Make sure you follow Martin on X. Read him at DelawareOnline.com. He's got some good stuff up there about Howie Roseman. Should he finally prioritize linebacker? He might, but probably not. Now, I know I've been asking everybody, is their passport up to date? I know yours is because you're already a world traveler. How excited are you to go to Sao Paulo, Brazil?
Yeah, I'm excited. I just found out you need a visa too, though.
So boy, this is breaking news to me.
yeah. There was we had a story on that in our paper. You're going to need like not only a passport but also a visa to go.
Oh wow!
Oh,
do you have to take a Portuguese language test before you get off the plane?
Jeff Stoutland. I'm going to have it with Jeff Stoutland.
From Stoutland.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Stoutland University.
Stoutland's going to make time for both of you two guys this off season. That's happening.
New offering at Stoutland University, Portuguese 101 at Stoutland University.
All right. Last thing for you, Martin Frank. Now I know you are a Swiftie. So I fear I know the answer to this question already. Who's winning the Super Bowl on Sunday?
I am going with the Chiefs.
Yeah, he's a Swift. He can't move past the fact.
Everybody's picking the Chiefs, Martin. It concerns me.
Surprised with that too.
Yeah,
but I just can't go against Pat Mahomes.
I know. I'm with you.
And that defense is just dominating right now. I know the 40.
I'll remind you two guys. The last time I heard such conversation was in 2017 when people said, how do you pick against Tom Brady? All he does is win Super Bowl. The Eagles, come on, with Nick Foles, you're going to take Nick Foles over Tom Brady? Are you crazy? You're going to take Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes? Are you crazy? How'd Nick Foles do?
Nick Foles did pretty well.
He did pretty well.
Just remember, just plant the seed for
by
you
the
guys.
way, because it was the whatever anniversary. What was it? 6th anniversary of the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 52. Nick Foles, the Philly special. I saw a lot of, how many Eagles numbers should they retire from the Super Bowl team? And there were more Nick Foles than anybody else. I'm like, are you people insane? You don't retire a freaking number for a guy who had a good run. It was a great, no, it wasn't a good run. It was a great run. Stop with the retirement. We're pissing people off, Jody. I decided to piss more people off. Stop it.
Dude, the guy's got a statue.
Right. Yeah. Statue's not enough. They got to retire his number 2.
Sponsored by Bud Light. But yes, they do have a statue. Did they still have that? Because Doug's in that statue too. So they might have thrown it into the closet, the broom closet.
I think they put a tarp over Doug.
Lincoln Financial Field, yeah.
Invisalign, don't know. Martin Frank, thank you very much for jumping in. We'll get you back up in a couple of weeks. Get that visa updated while you're at it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the info, Martin. I did not know that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yep. Get a visa. You're going to need it.
Sao Paulo will be here before you know it. That's Martin Frank from the Delaware News Journal here with us on Birds 365. All right, Mac coming back. We still got plenty to do, including talking to Eric Edholm from NFL.com. Both a draft guy. Yes, we're going to talk about the draft. We'll put the Super Bowl aside for 20 seconds, talk draft with Eric Edholm. But we'll also talk Super Bowl with Eric because he is one of their power rating guys at NFL.com.
I loved his power ratings, by the way. They were very unique.
For the Super Bowl, he's got the 32 most powerful people. I got an issue with his power ratings, as a matter of fact.
I like the thought process.
I do too. But there is a question or two about the order of certain individuals. I think he's got a little bit low. But we get to that when Eric Edholm joins us less than 15 minutes from now. Birds fans, here's your chance to save upwards of 40% on your car insurance right now from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you need to do. Call one of the two managing partners. That would be either Jim or Fran, and tell them you're a friend of JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At McMullen Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Get ready for the big game with Underdog Fantasy and sign up right now with your verified account. Use the word WIN when you register. Underdog Fantasy is giving away $1 million in giveaways and Underdog credit on Super Bowl Sunday. And there's a new customer special for anyone that signs up this week for Patrick Mahomes. Get ready for Super Sunday and set up your account right now with Underdog Fantasy and use the word WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac here with you on Birds 365. We've got 50 minutes left today. Eric Ed Home from NFL.com is going to jump in with us in just about 10 minutes from now. All right, since we started the free agency conversation last hour with Martin Frank, just get some John McMullen impressions here. For the Eagles who are up for free agency this offseason, Jason Kelsey, who made $14 million and change last year. So he's already come off the salary cap. He's only counting against Eagle salary cap and dead cap money, which they've already put in place from future years when they just kept pushing it down the line and down the line and down the line. How much are they going to add? If we want to put the Bayard money in and say, all right, there are 20 million salary cap space now. My Bayard will take it to 30. How much is Kelsey taking down if he's coming back? And I know you don't think he's coming back, but I do. So
right about 15 million. Same range, right about 15 million. So 15. But now Howie will structure it in a way where that cap number's not 15 million though. He'll structure it in a way where there's a couple voidable years.
Yeah. Jason Kelsey voidable year 2032.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll be stretching it out till.
So it's different, but he'll make similar money. 15. They usually give him a little bit of a bump. I think it was 14.25, and then they'll give him a little bit of a bump. So let's say 15. In a lot of ways, and I haven't talked about this, Jody, much, but I think in a lot of ways, the Eagles want Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox to retire. Fletcher's more difficult because Fletcher had a great season. Really good season. I don't want to overstate, but he played really well. And he deserves, last year he played for 10 million. Technically, he deserves a raise. Do you really want to pay a guy who's going to be 34, 8 figures again? And you have to get what I was talking about when we were talking about Chris Jones. No way the Eagles are getting Chris Jones, but you got to build this. You got to get Carter and Davis and Williams. You got to get them the majority of the snaps. And Fletcher's good. What he's good still, and he's going to be expensive, and that demands playing time. And by the way, if he's here, he should play. I'm not saying that, but in a lot of ways, it creates a bit of a complication. So it's dependent on. Do they believe they're really a Super Bowl contender? Maybe you bring Fletcher back. Maybe you want him back. Certainly Jason. Jason can do whatever he does. He's Derek Jeter at the end. That's my comparison. If you want to play, you play. We'll figure it out. That's where he is. But as you mentioned, he did not play well in Tampa Bay.
No, he had a bad last game.
And he didn't play great down the stretch as a whole. That was his worst game. But so in some ways, they'll never admit it, but in some ways, I think they hope, they can turn the page.
Yeah, they're not going to admit that even behind closed doors. I don't think they'd say that. They'd say, we'll figure it out. We'll come up with a plan if Jason retires. There'll be no mention of it could actually be beneficial. Even if that's rumbling around in how he said, those words will never be.
That they will never admit it. Never.
Nope.
That's me.
And I would say they shouldn't even. I get the whole financial ramification of it. I know he played badly. Shoot, I brought it up. They played badly. Don't care. He's still one of the best centers in the NFL until I see that actual drop-off. I saw that actual drop-off this year with James Bradbury. I witnessed it with my own 2 eyes. He became an unbelievably easily.
Well, that's it. Who gets credit? I think Bryant Rickey gets credit for better to give up on a player a year early than a year late. That's sort of the sports mindset, and we just saw it live out in living color with James Bradbury.
You know what, though? But Bryant Rickey might have said that after the last year of Chip Kelly. How would that have worked out for Bryant Rickey? We got to get out a year early before a year late with Jason Kelsey. If he's talking about it, let's move on. That doesn't always work.
No, it doesn't always work. But it generally works when you're 36, 37.
He wasn't 36 or 37 at that point. Then
no, I'm saying that's added into the context. During the Chip Kelly regime, look, Chip Kelly wanted to move on from Brandon Graham as well for Travis Long. That's just, to me, that's poor personnel evaluation. At that stage, Jason was still in the prime of his career. I think what Branch was saying is, as players age, it's better to give up on a good player a year early than a year late, not in the prime of their career. But, maybe I don't know. I don't know what.
Right. We could debate what the prime of someone's career is.
Yeah.
Some people.
Well, Jason's not in the prime of his career.
All of a sudden, James Bradbury, his prime, we watched it evaporate before our very eyes. Jason Kelsey has played 5 more years on top of that. How do you know there isn't a date? When you are 29 years old, 361 days, boom, you can't be expected to play thereafter. It's not that simple.
No, it's not that simple. I mean, Tom Brady played to when he did, but even when he won his last Super Bowl, you could say succinctly that was not the prime of his career. So you can say that. And that's what I said in some ways. I'm not saying slam dunk. He's still playing at a high level. I said in some ways, they may want to, in the back of their mind, say, maybe it's time to turn that page. Or they could say, you know what, we got a legitimate shot to get back to the Super Bowl. But you got to be honest with yourself. And right now, it's difficult for them to be honest with themselves because there's so much work to do. They don't even have a coaching staff. They have to rebuild the defense. They have to do all these things, got to hit. They're pretty good offensively, but all these things have to hit for them to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender. But the bottom line with Jason Kelce, doesn't matter the Eagles' thought process, my thought process. If he wants to come back, he can come back. He's Derek Jeter, but that's a Derek Jeter at the end. Past his prime. The Yankees let him play to when he wanted to play because of who he was and what he did. But he wasn't great at the end. And that's just the way it is with players like that.
I think that Jason Kelce at his position is better now than Derek Jeter was at his position when he was playing out those last year or two. I would even go so far as say 2 years. He had 2 years where the curve was certainly heading down. Jason Kelce is still a much better player than Jeter was. So I understand you're trying to make the comparison. I think it's kind of apples and oranges. Here to me, and we hope Eric at home joins us in just a second. Here's the most intriguing free agent the Philadelphia Eagles have because of all of the circumstances and the situation. That's DeAndre Swift. He's 25 years old. Statistically had a very good year. Not superstar. He did go to the Pro Bowl, and we've kicked it around enough how the Pro Bowl isn't what the Pro Bowl used to be. Flag football, guys dodging, whatever. DeAndre ended up in the Pro Bowl. He ended up playing in the Pro. He ended up scoring a touchdown in the Pro Bowl. Had good numbers. He's 25 years old.
That's good Pro Bowl knowledge. I had no idea.
You didn't know DeAndre played?
No.
Oh yeah.
No, I didn't pay any attention. I got to be full disclosure. I paid no attention to the Pro Bowl.
Caught. I believe it was from Jalen. I think he got the touchdown pass, as a matter of fact. Made a good job slapping the guy's hand away when he went to grab the flag. The whole running back thing, the Eagles evaluate running backs differently than other teams. The league in general seems to be devaluing running backs. How do the Eagles compare to everybody else? He's the biggest test case for me of all the guys that they have. You're right. Kelce and Cox have other things that factor in, long time with the organization, Super Bowl champions, everything else. DeAndre Swift isn't that. That's just a running back position in 2024. Those that are available, philosophy of teams, philosophy of the league. I got no idea what kind of deal DeAndre Swift's going to get from the Eagles or anybody else. I wish I could tell you, John, it'll be in that range. I can tell you what kind of range Chris Jones is going to get. Top of the market, 30+ million. You want him, you pay for him. That's what that's going to take.
Yeah.
I don't know what DeAndre Swift is going to get. I really don't. Do you?
No. You know who's the best at that? Our buddy Brad Spielberger. I'm going to try to look up to see if he's on his top free agents list because he really nails those things a lot when it comes to formulating potential contracts. He's really good at it. So, but I'll say this: if you go to Spotrac, which isn't as good, they got him getting more than Miles Sanders. I think that's crazy talk. But B, because of what we talked about, and part of it is not DeAndre's fault because Miles didn't live up to his contract, and that reflects poorly on the whole market.
Oh yeah.
So I think that hurts DeAndre. So that's part of it. And if he does get that money, no, he's gone. The Eagles won't even consider that type of money, and they have him getting more. I'm trying to look up Brad if he has him on his top list. It should be on there. So
yeah. Oh, by the way, at running back this offseason, free agents, Saquon Barkley, the Raiders running back who won the title the year before, whose name is evading me, right? Jacobs and Derrick Henry. You got three guys who have certainly had better careers. Now a little bit older on all those, not much than Swift on Barkley and Jacobs, but Henry's older. It's not like it's a dry position. Miles got a little lucky last year in that, and you could be facing the same thing with some of those guys again with the franchise tag. He was the best non-franchise tagged running back, and that's why he got the most money. Could DeAndre Swift be that this year? You don't think Tennessee's throwing a franchise tag on Derrick Henry, do you?
No, I don't think so at this stage of his career. But yeah, as far as you're right. That's what happened with Miles last year, Saquon and Josh Jacobs and et cetera. So they obviously would have gotten more, but they got franchised. So he ended up having the best deal. So Brad's got him at 3 years, $6.25 million per year, $12 million guaranteed, $18.75 million total. That's just under what Miles got. If he gets that, he's not coming back. If he's right, he's not coming back. And by the way, little note, I don't think DeAndre's necessarily wants to come back either, because he's a good receiver. He knows he's a good receiver, and I think he wants to be involved in an offense that uses the running back more in the receiving game.
Yeah, but aren't the Eagles going to be that kind of offense this upcoming year, John?
They can talk about it, and they can say Kellen Moore this and that and try to convince him. I'm sure if they want him back, and again, if it's $6.25 million, I don't think they even want him back. But if they do want him back, yeah, they'll try to talk him into it. But does he believe it? Because it's about the quarterback more than the coordinator. The quarterback's not going to dump the ball. A lot of the running backs' yardage when it comes to receiving game, we can talk about wheel routes and things down the field. You can increase design plays, but a lot of a running back's receiving is just dump offs and little progress when guys aren't open. Jalen doesn't do that. We've been talking about that for years. Not a bad thing. He doesn't do it because he's been able to effectively do it himself, either gain yardage himself or extend plays and get bigger plays down the field. I think DeAndre wants to be more in a more traditional offense where you dump it off to the running back. So I think you have two sides. I don't think the Eagles want to.
John's going to want him back. If you're right, John, which I fear you are, then that's shame on Jalen Hurts. Because you're right. When Jalen was running the way that he was running in 2022, you could get away from him. You just go, hey, he doesn't need to dump it off. He takes off, he makes a play himself. He gets as many yards, if not more. And you're not putting the ball at risk by putting it up in the air. Right. He didn't run this much this year. Well, then guess what? You got to be ready to have bad plan B. You got to be ready to dump the ball off. You got to be proficient at that. You got to be confident that you can do it, and then you got to do it. If he didn't, that's on him. That's on Jalen Hurts. If that's one of the reasons why he didn't throw as many passes to running backs out of the backfield, because he had a better, more viable option, good for the Eagles. They went to the Super Bowl. This past year, he didn't make near as many plays with his legs. The dump-off pass should have been more of their offense, and if it wasn't, that's on Jalen. He should have been prepared to do that. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. I'm going to double-check, text my buddy Eric at home and see if he remember, I think I was supposed to text him and remind him that he was joining us this morning. He has not checked in yet. We're hoping to run him down. Eric at home of NFL.com. Hopefully next here on Birds 365.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At McMullen Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Get ready for the big game with Underdog Fantasy and sign up right now with your verified account. Use the word WIN when you register. Underdog Fantasy is giving away $1 million in giveaways and Underdog credit on Super Bowl Sunday. And there's a new customer special for anyone that signs up this week for Patrick Mahomes. Get ready for Super Sunday and set up your account right now with Underdog Fantasy and use the word WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
All right, good news, bad news here with a half an hour to go on the Super Thursday edition, show number 698 of Birds 365. You're going to get that much more Mac and Mac today because I just got a text from my guy Eric at home. NFL.com writer who was on news duty, whatever. You understand it's better than me, John.
Yeah. If you're on duty and something happens, you get
he was not. He was kind of like third string. He was fill-in guy, third string, just in case guy. But one of their key news guys got sick out at the Super Bowl, so he's got to be on call this morning. So he did text me and say, "Yeah, so sorry, no can do. I will reschedule with you when we can do it again." So Eric's not going to be able to join us, unfortunately, today. That's too bad. But yeah, his number one source, the Birds 365, doesn't pay him to come on. Sports NFL.com does. So he's got his Super Bowl duties. I do want to make this Super Bowl point, and I know apologies to all you Eagle fans who don't want to hear about anything other than the Philadelphia Eagles. It is, I'll tie it in. I'll do what John McMullen did earlier, tie it back into the Eagles. Last year, the Eagles got screwed, or you can believe that if you want, by the field conditions, and their speed rushers couldn't get to the quarterback, and it was some kind of setup. A Roger Goodell fix of the game because the Kansas City Chiefs are his favorite team and he wanted them to win. Feel free to jump on whatever grassy, keyword there being grassy conspiracy all you want to. What is it about Fields in the Super Bowl, John? I get it's the most important game. It's the lead up to the most important game, then the most important game. Last year we had the stuff that went down in Arizona, and yeah, shame on the NFL. That was awfully handled. Did it dictate the outcome of the game? Not really. Was it preconceived by the NFL to screw the Philadelphia Eagles? No, not at all. But this is 2 years running now. They've already got a part. They haven't even started the game. And everybody is up in arms about the practice facility at UNLV that the 49ers are using, that it's too spongy. And Roger Goodell in his State of the Union, which they did on Monday early this week, I don't know why he felt the need to get out in front of everything, but he did with the turf thing. A couple of 49er players had commented on it. It had hit social media. It wasn't a massive thing. Goodell came out. We checked the field. The field is fine. The union signed off on the field. He went there without having talked to the union yet. So Jason Tretter comes in and goes, yeah, no, I don't know where Goodell got that because we don't think the field is good enough. that it could have been better. And this is the biggest game. Not that it was hideous, not that it was an injury waiting to happen, but they just said, not the best, and it should be the best leading up to the Super Bowl. Why can't they get the fields right before their biggest event of the year, John? Did we lose Johnny Mac?
I'm having issues with internet. I've had this issue since we had a storm here. So Xfinity, I'm going to call you guys out. You got to fix this, but hopefully you got me.
Yes.
When I don't think they care, Jody. I think you had a list of things. I think this is like 92nd on their list. They just don't care. And Lloyd Howell, the new NFLPA executive director, was talking yesterday. Thing for the playoffs, they're trying to push for better field surfaces. Really showed up with the World Cup and doing all these things for the World Cup to get the World Cup in these states. They have to have grass fields. It's a necessity. They won't accept anything else. And maybe won't do it for the players. All the players talked about the MetLife turf. Chris Long's on there saying you're going to put, the most expensive ACLs in the world on the MetLife turf and FIFA. No, they're not. They're replacing it. They wouldn't replace it for the NFL players, but they're replacing it for the World Cup. They're doing that in other stadiums as well. For practice fields. Now, on the other hand, I'm old enough to remember them calling off a preseason. Billick said, "We're not playing on this crap."
Did I ever tell you that story?
So,
Johnny Mac's going in now, so I'll tell you that story.
No.
He mentioned the Billick Ravens and them calling off the game at the vet. I was standing about as close to Brian Billick as I am to you right now. Well, we're not actually standing close to each other. We're streaming in, but you get my point. I was on the field for that as Billick was discussing it with the referees and getting ticked off and threatening to pull his team and then eventually pulling his team. Oh, I was standing right there. He picked a piece of the field up and pulled it up and goes, "You want?" He did. He took a chunk of the turf with his hand, not with a plier, not with a hammer, just reached down with a chunk of his hand and pulled up a big fistful of quote unquote turf. It was more like cement, if you ask me. And he threw it back down. I was less than 10 feet away from him as he's screaming at the referee and knew that game was going to get canceled. The reason why, I was doing the Eagle pregame show at the time. I was the host of the Eagle pregame show on their radio network. And I got someone calling me on my cell. "You got to get back up to the booth. We got to do an hour and a half show now because we've got no game." The official word came down. The game was canceled. "Get up there. Go talk to Merrill," because we had already thrown it to Merrill and Mike, and they were going to get ready to do the game. No such luck. Didn't happen. So, the turf has always been a question. But here's the problem. That was an August game. Shame on the Eagles that they didn't have the field ready. Shame on the city of Philadelphia because they were in charge of keeping the vet up to snuff. This is the Super Bowl, John. This is the
care. They still don't care.
The billion-dollar entity that is the Super Bowl. How do you not care?
Well, maybe that's a little bit too strong. I'm not going to say they don't care, but it's like 97th on their list. And then you talk about some of the pregame, the halftime show. That was part of it as well during the Super Bowl last year. It's such an extravaganza that affects the field and that kind of stuff. And that makes them a lot of money. And they care more about having Usher, and Usher's going to do it this year. Rihanna, they care more about that than they care about the turf. Not that they don't care, but as I said, it's probably 97th on their list for the week. And for the players, it's a bigger deal. But yeah, where I don't care, to be blatantly honest, and you brought it up, the people using it as an excuse last year. Yeah, that's nonsense. Kansas City played on the same field. And nobody's doing it to affect the Eagles. They don't care about either aspect of it. And that's the same thing this year with the 49ers and the Chiefs.
And
it's just way down on their list.
Well, and I think they need to revive their list because I think it is more important than 97th on the list. That's just my take. And by the way, this is just about the practice field, the 49ers, because they have two practice fields. The home team gets to use the practice field of the team in their conference, which would be the Raiders for the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are the home team, and therefore they get the Raiders facility. And the other one has to find the next best facility, which they deem to be UNLV's. And UNLV, they put down grass on top of their artificial turf because UNLV practices on turf. They play on turf. They're not going to go to excesses that the NFL does. It must be a grass field that you practice on. It can't be turf. So they had to put grass on top of the turf. And apparently it was too soft for the liking of some of the
too
49ers.
Spongy. Yeah.
Too spongy. Here's, and I'll go there in advance, several days ahead, and not even know. The field, I'll make a prediction. I don't know who's going to win. I still haven't decided, although I'm leaning 49ers. The field is going to be an issue again this Sunday. Why? Did you see the field for the last Raiders regular season game? It was bad.
Yeah, it had a bad reputation. I knew that. Allegiant Stadium already has a bad reputation.
And it's the most expensive stadium in the entire National Football League. Costs more to build than SoFi.
Really?
Yeah.
That place is a dump compared to the other new stadiums. Now, it's new. Dump is a relative word, but compared to SoFi, compared to Minnesota, Atlanta, Dallas, it's not even close to those stadiums. So if they spent that money, that's just because Vegas.
Maybe it's old school Vegas costs.
Yeah, because it's not even close to those other stadiums. So if they spent that much money, that's just Vegas cost, because everything costs ridiculous amounts of money there. I heard people out there complaining you can't get a burger for less than $35 in Vegas. It's like being at the airport in the whole town. So everything's expensive there. Maybe that, but it's not even close. The thing is, though, Jody, here's where I say, and again, I bring up Brian Billick because that's the most notable one. If you go to the old Texas Stadium, it was famous for having a big crown on the field.
Oh, down on that too. You can't see the other side of the field. You stand on one side. You can't see the other side. All you see is the big crown in the middle.
Yeah. They used to play on this stuff you crappy turf here, bad stadium here. Now, for the most part, it's pretty good compared to what it used to be. So it's gotten better and better and better. But when you do have the aspect of how much money the league generates now, it should be easier to put in grass turf. The players want grass turf. Now, I think a lot of people forget, like in Financial Field, Taylor Swift's there, or Kenny Chesney's there, or WrestleMania is going to be there. Big weekend for Jody and I. They have other things that destroy the turf when you bring them in, and it's easier to do it in a certain way at certain stadiums with field turf or whatever turf they're using. And they need, otherwise you can't have these $1 billion. You just talked about Allegiant Stadium, how much money they spent it on, how much money they spent on SoFi. You can't build something for $6 billion and it's only used for 10 dates a year. So it's more complicated, I think, than people realize.
It is. But if you've got the right read on it, and I'm sure you do, the laissez-faire attitude of the league that it's 97th on its list of things to worry about before the biggest event of the year. Now, somebody's going to get hurt week 7 at MetLife Stadium because they took a bad step on it. They're going to roll with the punches on that. And between you and I, they probably should. I feel badly for the player who got hurt, but it's 1 week in a 16-game season of you're right, 120 event year that a stadium might be used for. The NFL can't get nuts about that. This is the Super Bowl. This is it. Johnny Mac predicted 120 million and change tuning in. You want to just go, screw the turf. Can't worry about it. Can't worry about everything. Can't fix everything. Can't have everything perfect before the game. No, the turf is pretty damn important. And if the NFL is taking too laissez-faire an attitude, I think the players union and the players themselves have every right to complain about. This is Super Bowl. This is not week 7 of the regular season. This is the biggest game of the year, and it should be played under pristine conditions. And if the NFL is not doing everything humanly possible to make it that, then I say shame on them. That's on the NFL. If they choose to go elsewhere, that bothers the snot out of me. All right, Johnny Mac, we've got the Chiefs and the 49ers. We've got how many hours left? 72 hours, somewhere thereabouts, before they kick it off. If the Chiefs win, it'll just be another notch in the belt for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They've already achieved dynasty status, right?
I don't think so. I think if they
Really?
win this one, I'll go dynasty. Well, you got to win, right? I mean, you getting there is tremendous. It's like Buffalo. Is Buffalo a dynasty? They got there 4 years in a row. In a lot of ways, to me, making those consecutive Super Bowls, you would think you'd get one. That's an extreme example, but to be so consistent is a more impressive beat to me in a league driven by parity. But if you don't win, you don't win, and nobody. So if you lose, it affects it. I think if they win this one, I think they're over the top. But I still think they need one more. So I do think they win it to be, and then I don't think anybody can argue it.
No, I think they're already there. You brought up the Bills, which is a good one, because I noted as the Chiefs were making their run, if Patrick Mahomes got there, which he did by beating the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, he'd be the first quarterback to ever go to 4 Super Bowls in 5 years and won one. Because somebody pointed out Jim Kelly went to 4 Super Bowls in 4 years, so don't leave him out. Comma, and won one. Comma, and has already won 2. So he's already gone by that. If he wins it, that's 3 out of 4. Then it's good luck to any idiot who wants to say they're not a dynasty. That ship is way sailed. I think they're already there. And
I think if you go, what are they at 6 consecutive AFC championship games? How many consecutive AFC champions? Is it 6? I think it's 6.
So. Yeah, Mahomes been.
I think you'll have the idiots that, he's only won 2. I think you'll still have those if they lose this game. If they win it, I think it's a slam dunk only. I was people say, it's always ironic to me, and I say it all the time. John Elway, most notably, was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time when he was losing Super Bowls. When he won them, he was at the end of his career, and he was being lifted by Terrell Davis and a great team. But nobody remembers that. John Elway won 2. Peyton Manning only won 1. Peyton Manning was a darn right poor quarterback at the end of his career, but they managed to win because they had a great team, and he got to number 2. Nobody cares. He won 2. Patrick Mahomes is great, but if you don't win, people don't remember the runner-up. And they'll say, as just as I said, they made 6 straight. You heard it with Andy here. How many championship games? But he never got over the top. To me, it's more impressive to have that consistency. But to the public at large, you got to win.
Right. And there's no better example of it than last year. You and I both agree. Who played the better quarterback game in last year's Super Bowl? Jalen Hurts did. I know he fumbled a non-forced error. If the game had gone in a specific way, which it didn't, then that would have been a bigger deal. He dropped the ball. They picked it up. They scored a touchdown. Eagles built back up a 10-point lead after Jalen coughed up the fumble. They were up by 10 points. So don't give me Jalen, his fumble was the key. No, it wasn't the key to the game. They still got up by 10 points after he dropped the football. So that goes by the wayside. So if you don't put too much emphasis on that, which I think you shouldn't, the guy who had the better day that day was Jalen Hurts. He was the more proficient player. He was better than Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and people just forget that Jalen was better that day. We might remember it here in Philadelphia a little bit more just because we're Birds 365. But across the nation, Mahomes won, Hurts lost. They're not going to go into the weeds to break it down and go,
exactly.
Hurts actually
in PFF just put this up. In the PFF era, the 2 highest graded quarterback games in Super Bowl history are Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts.
They're 1-2?
1-2.
You're kidding.
Nope. 1-2. Nick's
what
won.
What did Brady get in the game that the Eagles beat the Patriots? He only threw for 500 yards.
I have to look up. They put it on their Twitter. I'll try to find it, but I don't know. He threw for 500 yards. Jim Swartz still won't talk about it, and he won the Super Bowl because they were gashed so badly. But yeah, I do know the top 2 were Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts, and and I say it all the time, and I believe, and I covered both teams, the better Eagles team was last year's team than the team that won the Super Bowl. Very few people agree with me. A lot of people who cover the team agree with me, but for the public at large, nobody agrees with me because they won and that team lost. Perfect example as well of that.
Yeah, the reason why I can't just sign off on that is, are we talking about the team that won the Super Bowl that day or the guys who played the entire season? The Eagles had injuries in the Super Bowl. The fact that they won that game with as many backups as they did is still kind of mind-boggling to me, that they had that next man up mentality and made it work the way they did. If you look at the entire, which includes the outcome of the final game, the entirety of the whole season, the year they won the Super Bowl and the one that lost the Super Bowl, I got to take the win. That if it was close enough, that certainly tips the scale for me.
So I found their post. They only have the top 6. Nick Foles 92.3 in Super Bowl 52. Jalen Hurts 92.2. So
is this quarterback rating they use in the ESPN?
Yeah, this is their grade. No, this is their PFF grade.
PFF grade.
Russell Wilson was 3rd, 91 point. Aaron Rodgers 91.6. Eli Manning got a 91.5. Patrick Mahomes got an 89.5. So Tom wasn't even in it. 1-2 were Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts. And this is since the PFF era, since 2006. Okay. 2 best Super Bowl performances. Eagles. Yeah, Jalen was phenomenal. And as you point out, I think a lot of people say because it was an unforced error and they did return it for a touchdown, and you lose the game by that margin, with a field goal, and they go, well, they would have won the game if that play changes the trajectory of the entire game. It's not played the same way if it doesn't happen. And as you point, the Eagles recovered, had a 10-point lead at halftime. Patrick Mahomes was banged up. It was looking real good at halftime, Jody. It was looking real good.
Despite the fact that Jalen put the ball on the ground.
Yeah. And they didn't play well in the second half. But Jalen played well. Jalen played.
Jalen was not the reason that the Eagles lost that Super Bowl that day. All right, we need to take our final time out of the day. Come back, put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At McMullen Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Get ready for the big game with Underdog Fantasy and sign up right now with your verified account. Use the word WIN when you register. Underdog Fantasy is giving away $1 million in giveaways and Underdog credit on Super Bowl Sunday. And there's a new customer special for anyone that signs up this week for Patrick Mahomes. Get ready for Super Sunday and set up your account right now with Underdog Fantasy and use the word WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac guys here on Birds 365. Thanks for streaming in today. Yes, let me once again tell all of you stream in and comment on this. We appreciate you. I thank you very much for doing so. We started the show, in case you weren't here at the beginning, talking about a couple of guys who checked in on the stream, giving us suggestions how to do the show. And I said, the streamers seem to enjoy themselves, that we don't need to engage. That was the word the streamer used with them. They do a great job of just chatting amongst themselves. More power to them. And a lot of times I'm entertained by the conversations they have.
I'll call. All right. I'll say, I'll do what they wanted to end the show. Now, somebody just commented, McMullen says all stadiums are dumps. Now, this is why I don't pay attention to streamers. I said the exact opposite. I said at SoFi Stadium, for anybody who I was there for the first time this year, unfreaking believable. Unfreaking believable. Dallas, unbelievable. Atlanta, tremendous. US Bank Stadium, where the Eagles won the Super Bowl, best facility in the country, except for SoFi Stadium now. Allegiant Stadium, I looked it up, Jody. $6 billion they spent on SoFi, $2 billion on Allegiant Stadium. You can tell the difference. For a new stadium, what I said, it is not nearly as nice as the other new stadiums. Some stadiums are dump. FedEx Field, number one on the list. That's a dump. But if you don't listen, yeah. Now, am I going to spend 2 hours correcting people? I would have to if you use the stream. But they hear what they want to hear, Jody. It drives me insane.
Agreed. So thanks to all the streamers. If we talk too much Super Bowl today, sorry about that.
Maybe Super Bowl's coming up,
tomorrow.
By the way.
Tomorrow is the day before the Super Bowl. So, yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Super Bowl. Don will be on early, so we get play Eagles in. We're still working on who's going to join us in hour number 2. Eric Edholm was supposed to join us hour number 2 today. He got called in to work. He was on reserve backup type duty for Super Bowl coverage today. Somebody got sick, so he had to be on news duty and was not available to hop on. And I was going to have some fun with him because we were certainly going to talk draft. And we'll get Eric on. He promised he apologized. His bad, blah, 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 blah. So we'll get him back on. He was at the Senior Bowl. Hopefully we get him on before the Combine kicks in next month. He does power rankings. He's involved in the power rankings on NFL.com. So he power ranked the 32 most important people for the Super Bowl. And number 32 was Usher. So he had some fun with it. Usher had nothing.
Taylor Swift was in, I think Taylor was 21st.
Yeah, she was in the 20s out of the 32. Everybody else is a player or coach is top as it should be.
No, Bill Benovich, 31,
Oh,
the official, because people are going to be complaining about officiating.
Thank you for the correction. You're right. The referee, it's got to be in there somewhere, and hopefully he doesn't belong on the list when the game is over and done with, because he doesn't have any effect whatsoever. That's what you should be rooting for every single time. The two quarterbacks are 1-2. Andy Reid is 3rd. McCaffrey is 4th, as he should be. Kelsey is 5, makes sense. Shanahan down at 6. That might be just a tad low, because Kyle Shanahan, if you're talking about pressure, John, I think there's more pressure on him coming into this game than anybody else.
Oh, well, you know who else I think is low? Both. Well, one didn't make the list. That's Jake Moody, the 49ers kicker. And Harrison Butker, I think, is too low, because that's a huge advantage. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. But that, to me, is a huge advantage for Kansas City. So everyone says they have the better coach and quarterback. They have the better coach, quarterback, and kicker. I think people are forgetting about the kicker as well. I think he's a little bit too low, because so many of these games, NFL games, one-score games. It was a one-score game last year. Big advantage Chiefs if that's the case again.
But where I think they undersold the guy they undersold most is the left tackle of the San Francisco 49ers. How many times have you told me that he is a lock Hall of Famer?
Yeah, that's
Trent Williams is one of the greatest left tackles in the history of the game. They don't lose when he plays.
No, that's
and
true.
As far as I know, he's playing. He's 100% healthy. He's going to be good to go on Sunday, and he's got him way down the list. I know offensive linemen, just do your job, faceless. It doesn't necessarily get clicks, but believe me when I tell you, Trent Williams will be a major contributor after. You just ran down a whole bunch of PFF grades for me, right? How long they've been doing it, best Super Bowl performances ever. Yeah, I'm going to bank on Trent Williams' left tackle performance being one of the best Super Bowl performances.
Yeah, I mean, Karlaftis has been one of the most improved players for Kansas City. You can just scratch him off. He ain't doing much during the Super Bowl. I'm with you. Trent Williams is unbelievable.
And we will talk plenty more Super Bowl tomorrow. Johnny Mac, like I said, we got Damo tomorrow. We'll work on someone for later on in the show. Again, thank you to all of those of you who streamed in. We appreciate you greatly. If you want to ask direct questions that merit being asked, not like McMullen says every stadium's a dump. He doesn't. But if you want to ask questions, you go ahead and ask the questions, and we may just get to them. You never really know. But you got to be tuned in to find out if that's the case tomorrow when McMullen and McDonald return in 2-2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.